Today's episode of Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey is brought to you today by LifeWave X39 patches. As a parent of a child with autism, I am always looking for new tools that truly make a difference. Since my son has started using the LifeWave X39 patches, we have noticed incredible improvements. More joint attention, less aggression, and a reduction in his autism-related symptoms. I have started using them myself, and they've truly been a game changer for my energy, my focus, and my mood. These innovative patches use light to gently support your body's natural energy flow. For better wellness, try them out today and see a difference in yourself and even your kiddo. So you guys can visit my link below in the show notes to learn more and to support the show. Welcome to Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey, the podcast where we explore complexities, breakthroughs, and unfiltered realities of lives touched by autism. I'm your host, Ruth Cassell, here to guide you through heartfelt stories, expert insights, empowering conversations. Whether you are a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, an educator, or an advocate, professional in the space, this is your space to find community. Ask the hard questions and uncover new possibilities. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey. I'm Ruth Cassell, your host, and today's episode is all about unlocking communication. Specifically, I'm going to be sharing our family's journey with AAC, or Augmented and Alternative Communication device. It's been transformative for my son and of us. And I hope that sharing this experience with you will provide you guys with some encouragement. Also, some practical insights for families just starting. Let's begin talking about why communication is more than just words, and communication is a fundamental human right. It's all about connecting with others, expressing your needs, sharing your thoughts, and building relationships. For those who cannot use spoken words, there are alternative methods. Every person deserves the opportunity to be heard, understood, and participate in the world around them. When my son was younger, I remember the heartbreaking of seeing him trying to communicate and not being understood. And even today, with the modifications that we are going to be talking about, he is still misunderstood. This is why we still need to advocate communication differences and different stages of communication and what that looks like for the individual. We knew he had so much to say, but had no real way to express it effectively. That is why we began exploring the AAC as a way to bridge that gap. At times, when introducing AAC, it sometimes is not a smooth transition. This is not typical in every case. When you are presented with an AAC, sometimes it's not always the right platform for the child, or it could be timing. There's many different parts of language building In our case, what brought us to start utilizing AAC when we were first introduced to AAC, I personally was on the fence about not doing AAC. It had been brought up a few times, and I really wanted to focus more on getting him the spoken word, for him to actually be able to speak verbally. Because my son does make sounds, and I thought since, he can make sounds, which is still true, but my perception of AAC has now changed quite a bit when it comes to getting started. And I probably, looking back on it now, I probably would have started him maybe a year earlier on an AAC device, maybe 2 years earlier, and really looking back on it now. So my son, he started with his AAC device when he was going into kindergarten. And, there's challenges that you face, doubts that come into your mind. You're like, this is just going to give him another crutch. He's going to not be able to, he can only use this to talk. But it gives him a reliable channel to use. And I'm going to really dive deep into that. So honestly, our introduction, I wouldn't say it was the smoothest at first because there's a lot of nuances that you have to work with when you're working with an AAC. My child wasn't used to carrying a device around. That was a challenge that we had. And I'll talk more as we go through about those challenges too. Like many parents, we face those doubts and those challenges. Would he be able to understand, what we're asking him to do? Making sure you're carrying your tablet around and go to this app. And, it's the whole using the app was part of my concern, not only about finding it. Because in my son's case, my son's AAC device, we chose Proloquo to go. And the reason why I ended up choosing that one so much was because my son does spelling to communicate. And they have another app that will help facilitate that in the future when he becomes an open speller. So I didn't want him to have to relearn another app. It will be a smooth transition from the symbols app to this writing app because they are kind of like combined, which is a very interesting AAC. And it can be textable and have full conversations. And Proloquo to go, you can use it on the phone and you can use it on FaceTime. So these were things that, so he could communicate with his grandparents. I wanted to be able to utilize that technology in that manner. So that is what made me choose this one over the other ones. There's several out there, and I'm going to talk about that later in the show, like the different types. But that's what led me to choose Proloquo too. I was like, would this be frustrating to him that he's going to have to figure out these pages? Because my son started on a 77 grid, and I'll break that down a little bit too. And at first, for me, it was a little overwhelming. So, I didn't know if it was going to overwhelm him or frustrate him. Would it slow down his progress of spoken words? This was like my hang up in the beginning, and this is probably what kept me from doing it. We still work on actual speech, spoken word speech, but discovering now that my son has severe apraxia, I'm taking a different approach when it comes to looking at speech therapy for him. And this is a tool that's definitely utilized, that he can utilize. And I can show competency in his schoolwork and show that he can understand because he's able to communicate on the AAC very clearly with me with minimal prompting on new things, especially now. In the beginning, there was a lot of heavy prompting. I was still learning it, but now he's much better he finds words on his AAC that I didn't even know was on there. Like, for example, he wanted me to make him some French fries. So he said, make French fries, air fryer. I didn't even know that the AAC device had an air fryer symbol, but it does. So, and I make his French fries in the air fryer. So that's just an example. And that was not me prompting it. He wanted me to make him some French fries in the air fryer. These fears are common, but often unfounded. I had to get over that myself. So one of the biggest hurdles, figuring out the right system. So that was one of the ones, and that's why I chose the Prolo quote. We were starting small, we started in the beginning with PECS, which is, basic picture exchange system. And we still utilize PECS in some ways. So I have a visual schedule for him in the house. I use PECS for a grocery list still. And he likes that, trying to teach him those independence. So we still use some PECS, but that's a little different. When you're talking about a grocery list, I have him, okay, you're out of grapes. Go get your grapes and put it on your grocery list. And I'm trying to teach him, going to the store and picking things out. So I try to keep his list small, and he has to help me pick out all the items on his list. So it's more like a life skill that we're using these PECS for. And he has to build his list. Instead of writing them, it's pictures of all of his favorite foods. So again, you want to start small before you would even consider doing an AAC device if your child is young. Get them fluent with PECS. And my son was very fluent with PECS. And this is why it wasn't too long before I started moving and wanting to advance him to do more. And this is what I was saying, like, my son is on a 77 grid on his AAC device. It was, like I said, very overwhelming at first. It was hard for me to navigate it. But what was interesting about my son, and I know it's not going to be the case with every child, but my child is hyperlexic. He loves books. He loves for me to read to him. He likes to look at books. He knows if I skip, like if I'm trying to hurry the book up and just read, and I'll try to skip a couple pages because it's time to go to bed. No, I can't do that. He knows. So when we started AAC, we also started kindergarten at the same time. And I homeschooled him. I took the course from the actual app, and I made sure that I knew how to program it. I knew how to utilize the pages, and a lot of it in there, they have how to go through each button and how to build speech. So I utilized that a lot. And that really did help me figure out a lesson plan for him to be able to really thrive in his homeschool and this year in his homeschool and really build on that language. But what was interesting to me is because of his hyperlexia and his speech therapist, even though she wasn't great with his actual system, she utilized another system, and she did understand why we chose this one is because of spelling to communicate. And yes, it would be easier for us in the future. And she even said, we don't have to teach him the language. We don't have to teach him that this means girl. We don't have to teach him that this means place. This means thing. We didn't have to teach that piece. We didn't. I know he is reading the words because the pictures are not very helpful. They do not, they're stick figure people. And I know that's not going to be the case in everyone's case, but for my son, that is, where we started. And I do believe it's because we read a lot of books. He likes books. And I do believe his hyperlexia did help him understand what he was looking at. So, like I said, at first it was a little overwhelming because it is a 77 grid. There's, a lot of icons on the screen. And we worked through it. I used another old iPad that I had, and I would model it, and that seemed to work the best. Like, I would build our sentence out or whatever we were talking about in the book, and then he would model what I did. So we are currently working on his AAC journey. We're building out those WH questions. He is doing really good with that, building out those sentencing structures. Sometimes he's just like any kid. He wants to try to get done with the least amount of work to put in. So if he'll request things, and sometimes he'll just do one word request, and I'll say, no, you need to say 3 words. Like, I want, or I would like, or I love, but I said I'm not going to accept a 1 word. So I'm trying to get him on his own to build a sentence structure. Like the whole thing about asking for the French fries. He built that himself. Since I've been asking him to dive a little deeper, he's been doing it a lot more here lately for like advocating for himself about wanting privacy to go to the bathroom. Great. Good. He'll say, I'm good, go, and he'll close the door. And it's not 100% a proper sentence, but we're on our way there. Because before he would just say go or stop, or like because he didn't want you to come in or do something, or so he's actually putting more words together. We do go through exercises and answer WH questions, not only on our AAC device, but in Spelling to Communicate. We ask questions and then he has to spell out the answer on the boards. He loves sharing on his AAC device. He loves to tell me things. Most recently, and I didn't think that it would really translate that well, is actually we've been doing a lot of cooking lately, him and I. And again, this is about, there's a whole lot of reasons why I'm having him do cooking with me, cooking dinner. Where I'm feeding therapy, that's one. I'm trying to introduce more smells, and I want him to not feel obligated to eat the food. So he's helping me prepare the food. And I always have his AAC device out, and I ask him can you label the items? Remember, like, there's a lot of symbols inside these AAC devices. I don't even know in my mind, I'm thinking, does it even have hamburger meat, listed somewhere? It did. And my son knew exactly where it was, what folder, where he had to go get it to find it. So that's, it amazes me. But, there is a search function. And honestly, I think my son has searched some of these things because I can look in the search history, and there's some things I'm like, I did not type that in. Who typed that in there? So I'm thinking. He can spell. He can spell really, really efficient. So, and then it will auto-populate, after you put so many words in, just like auto-correct and things like that. So probably like, yep, that's the word I'm looking for. And then that'll find the symbol. But the joys on his face, realizing what he is trying to tell me, I'm actually understanding. It's just so sweet. It just melts your heart. And there are some sweet moments that we've had. He has, said, "I love you" on the device to me and to his dad. And it's just so sweet. It is just so sweet. We have been working on zones of regulation as well, and understanding our emotions and knowing how we're feeling in the moment and really talking about that. And I feel like we've seen a lot of growth in understanding when it comes to our emotions. And that's when he goes, "I love you." And then he gave me a kiss, and it was just this little thing ever. It was so, so sweet. He just melts my heart sometimes. I say all this because sometimes this will not always be your experience, but there's been some kids that they really thrive once they get an AAC. And we still have our challenges. I'm not going to say we don't have challenges with our AAC. Our challenges lie in where he does amazing during table work, and he does amazing when we're doing tasks together. A lot of the time it's not prompted, so the prompting has definitely decreased a whole lot. The issue where we're still struggling, and we've only been doing this for a year now, so, I have to give him a little grace. I have to give myself a little grace. He's come so far. It's still initiating in the moment. Sometimes in the moment, he doesn't utilize it to help him not be as frustrated in certain situations. So for families that's just starting out there, here's some practical tips that's based on our experience of how you can help, yourself and help your child to understand, or, need to find the right system that you all can agree on, the AAC device system itself. Some do well with certain systems and they have different picture products. I will say, I know I keep talking about Proloquo, but I do really like Proloquo to go because they have apps for the future that aren't just symbol-based. So, I'm thinking about the now, but also don't want to change something too drastic. It's like in my head, what I was thinking, if you started out with an iPhone and then you would change to an Android, I don't want to do that. I would like to just stay on the same operating type system. So that is why I chose Proloquo to go. LAMP, though, is a great option as well. A lot of practitioners use LAMP more than Proloquo. But for what I see, it is great as well. It's just didn't have something that would grow with my son, so that's why I decided to go with the Proloquo to go. Now, those are your two major ones. There's a couple others that the school systems use, and I'll touch base on that in a moment. But those two, both of them have the parent training modules in there and utilizing and how to get the most out of your AAC device. And if not anything, I would definitely say, parents, I know it's a lot and we have a lot on our plate, but that app is expensive. And take the time to really dive deep into that app. And the videos, I think I feel like it was a 30-hour training between all the modules and stuff. I just stayed up late and did it piece by piece so I would have understanding to be able to utilize it for him properly, and both of those systems, the LAMP or the Proloquo to go, you can put real pictures inside of actual people. So some people, really thrive on the most grid advanced. Now, I will say When it comes to grid size, I don't know what LAMP says to do because I've not taken their training, but in Prolo Quo, they stated when you get it to start out on the basic and to start out with the 77 grid. So when you start out, you have all the symbols on there. And they wanted you to do the modules to run the software. And I followed that. And my son actually did pick it up really quickly. And they said to advocate. And again, this is personal preference, but I did do exactly what the software developers said how to use their system. And, his speech therapist was on board because she knew I took the training because I sent her a link and said, if you want, you could take it too. But I know she's busy. And I took the training and it really did make a big difference. And I think his fluency in using the system by going through their training. Now, I can't speak to LAMP as that's how they have it too, but he really did thrive more because I know it's because I took the training and I helped him utilize their training tools because they had PDFs and stories and things on how that you could build the language by understanding the use of the placement that was on the grid. And I can't stress this enough as another tip, modeling communication when they're using that AAC. So I had another old iPad. I put it on that one and I was modeling it. Like I would do, whatever I was going to ask him from the PDFs that they provided. I would demonstrate how to ask for things. And then I would ask him to ask for things. And then I would ask a question and I would type it on mine and then he would type it on his. Or how to express emotions, really digging deep into those zones of regulations that I have. I have PECs for that and we talk about that, and we're going to have an episode on zones of regulation as well. And how to express those emotions and where do we go to find how we're feeling, within our app. Modeling helps build the familiarity with the app and how to navigate the app. Another tip, be patient. It takes time for your child to learn anything new, but it also takes us too. Sometimes they say, you can't teach old dog new tricks. It's hard for us as well as an adult. So remember, you are the captain of the ship. You are the PhD for your child. So you got to keep yourself, up to date, right? So be patient with yourself. Give yourself some grace as you're learning this new form of communication and celebrate those small victories along the way. Just getting through and navigating is hard enough. Like I was saying, we've been doing cooking. You got to make AAC a natural part of your routine. Use it during your meal times. That's the most that we like to do is he does have it at the table and in the beginning he just labeled what was all on our plates. But now he says he's happy and he'll say a couple other things, like sometimes he makes mention of the color of his plate that he has today and his spoons and forks and stuff. Playtime or reading books. Yes, reading books is big. I like to do internet searches with him too. And he has to, what are we looking for? Or today we're learning about penguins. So let's go see what we learned about penguins. And then, they live in ice and he will go find in places ice, it's snowing, and I will accept those as answers. So yes, another thing, seek out support. It's great that the app has those resources for you, but reach out to your speech therapist. Like, we had a great speech therapist that really worked with him and did great on AAC, but now we're looking for a speech therapist that does AAC, but also does prompt, because we want to do more of the apraxic piece of the speech for prompting and muscle. So that's what we're looking for now. But join, like maybe a parents group for guidance and encouragement. Now, I know Proloquo, they have a parents group, and you can go on and then join that. And they give really great advice when you get stuck, and there's extra resources that you can find within that group. I run a group called All Mommy, and I will post that in the description below, but I also will share my findings in there as well. And sometimes we have Zoom calls on how to help advance your child on their AAC device. You're not alone on this journey. Since starting with AAC, our family has interactions and have changed dramatically. My son's ability to communicate has opened up new opportunities for connection and understanding. We now can anticipate his needs and desires more accurately. And it has reduced frustration and, not just for him, but for us to try and figure out what is going on. Or how can I help? One of my favorite moments is when he started spelling to communicate, and he was actually on the letterboard, and he had just begun learning in new languages, which is such a testament to his potential. And like I was saying, the reason why we considered transferring to Proloquo so he can start texting, the reason why I do these actually in tandem, I work with spelling to communicate and utilize the AAC device, is that, for one, as of right now, AAC is more easily advocatable when it comes to everyday use, schools, clinics, things like that. Unfortunately, we are still pushing very hard when it comes to spelling to communicate. Until my son is fully open, meaning open spelling, that he can spell all his thoughts out. And as of right now, his motor is what's hindering that, just like that's why it's hindering his speech. So AAC is the bridge for now. But when I considered the Proloquo, like I said before, is because so he can text me later. They have one that is a combination of the symbols and just texting. That is compatible with using a cell phone. So that is why I wanted to choose that platform. And I can't wait to see how this new chapter unfolds. The impacts of AAC on relationships beyond our immediate family, to like his therapist and his interaction with peers and teachers and even strangers. He'll say hello on his AAC to people he doesn't know. He seems no longer like a child that can't communicate. He's just seen as some child that communicates differently and a child that actually has a voice. Here are some resources that have been invaluable to our family in our AAC journey. So, like I said, the Prolo 2 to Go is a popular app. It provides customizable vocabulary grids. A lot of schools use Touch Chat. It's an app designed for both beginners and advanced AAC users. LAMP, Words for Real Life, a robust app that focuses on developing language skills through motor planning. Speak Up for Yourself is another well-regarded AAC app with simple interactions and a powerful customization tool. So here's a few books that I'm going to recommend. I really like this book. It's called More Than Words. It's by Fern Sussman. It's a fantastic guide for parents to help communication with their child with autism. This book is more about body language, and I really loved it. It did open my eyes to a lot for my son. So DIR therapy falls great with this book as well, More Than Words. Another book, AAC Strategies for Individuals with Moderate to Severe Disabilities by Susan Johnston. A practical book for incorporating AAC in daily life. It does give a lot of good tips on how to really incorporate it into daily living. Speechless by Adam P. Buchler. Parents' perspective on navigating communication challenges. Free resources to help, to build out your learning. So it's called practicalaac.org. This website is filled with strategies and tips and resources for AAC users and their family. Communication Matters in this organization is dedicated to supporting those that use AAC. And support groups. Again, like I said, find those local communities or I don't know if LAMP has it, but I know Pro Quo does. So if you end up getting that, get into their groups as well. And if you would like to join my group as well, I will post that link below, All Mommy, and we do have events like that in the group online. If you're a parent and you're starting your AAC journey, know that progress may be slow at first, but it is worth it. Celebrating every milestone. Believe in your child's potential. Even when the road feels long, communication is their right. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey. If you have any questions about AAC or want to share your own journey, feel free to reach out. Don't forget to subscribe so you can never miss an episode. And join me next week as we explore another aspect of life on the autism journey. Until next time, take care and keep believing in your child's potential. Thank you for tuning in to Finding Your Identity in Your Autism Journey. I hope today's episode inspired you, brought you some clarity, or simply reminding that you are not alone. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and if you enjoyed this conversation, leave a review and share it with someone who might need it. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and together we can navigate this journey one step at a time.